that you can hear me. We'll now begin this webinar. Thank you very much for so many people coming along. And we're here to have a deep dive into AI use and process safety and ask us the question, are we really safer with technology such as this? So you might remember the early days of when Facebook still felt like a place for connection. One moment that's always stuck with me was when a friend of mine was working abroad and he marked himself as safe during an earthquake. Within minutes, his entire network, all of us were scattered across multiple time zones. We all breathed a collective sigh of relief. There was no panicked texts. There was no waiting for international calls, just a single click that he made and that cut through the chaos. To me, it felt like technology working as its best, connecting people and reducing harm, and it provided peace of mind when it was needed the most. But not long after that, I read about how the same platform, Facebook, had been used to incite violence and spread hate speech in Myanmar. Military officials created fake accounts and they coordinated online campaigns that contributed to the persecution of the Rohingya people. The UN later concluded that Facebook had played a determining role in what became a humanitarian crisis. So that's the same technology that in one context helped save lives, in another it helped to destroy them. And it wasn't just Facebook. Around the same time, YouTube's recommendation algorithm, which is powered by AI, was quietly nudging users towards increasingly extreme content. Not because it was evil, not because it was malicious, but because it was designed to maximize watch time. Left unchecked, the system learned that the most profitable content wasn't always the safest. It wasn't the AI that was at fault. It was what the people behind it chose to reward. Technology is not neutral, and its impact depends on how it's used, who's responsible for it, and how quickly we can react when things begin to go wrong. Process safety pioneer Trevor Kletz once observed, there's a saying that organizations have no memory. Only people have memory. And once they leave the plant, the accident that occurs there is long forgotten about. And for decades, one of the major challenges in process safety has been how to retain the lessons of the past. Now, with the arrival of AI, particularly large language models, we may finally be close to a solution. These tools have the potential to transform how we capture and how we apply knowledge. They can retain decades of incident data, operational learnings, and safety expertise, and make it available to our people exactly when they need it. However, as the examples that I've just shown demonstrate, new technology doesn't improve safety by default. If we don't ask the right questions, apply the right checks, and stay grounded in the fundamentals, AI might not help us at all. In fact, it might even introduce new risks. So this webinar is not a warning against AI, and it is by no means a celebration either. It's an invitation for us all to look a little more closely, to understand both the opportunities and also its limitations, and to provide you all with a practical roadmap to adopt AI in a way that supports rather than undermines our commitment to process safety. So here's an overview of what we're going to go through today. I'm going to bust some AI myths. I'm going to show you some of the learnings that we've had so far. I've got a few practical examples to show you as well. I'll then go through that adoption roadmap before wrapping up. Please use the Q&A to ask any questions. And once I'm done, I'll use the time available to answer any questions that you guys may have. So let's first of all bust one of the biggest AI myths that I hear or that I'm faced with when I'm out speaking to people, and it's that AI is binary. You're either all in or you're all out. And for me, that's not the case. It's not a binary decision. Your use of technology such as AI is a spectrum. You can start small and you can still see meaningful value. AI can play a simple supporting role long before it's making any decisions on its own. And here's an example of what that spectrum might look like. I've broken it down into 5 steps, but there's obviously different ways of showing that. Let's use the same example, managing a pressure relief valve that's nearing its inspection threshold. Level 1 might just simply be that the AI flags that something needs attention with something that it's found. It could simply be a smart calendar reminder or pinging an email off. Level 2, it might start to interpret that data and it might offer suggested next steps to make some recommendations, but it's still the human that's making the decision and making the action. Level 3 might see an AI taking a little bit more initiative. It might draft an isolation plan, might draft a risk assessment, but again, the human is still in charge of reviewing and approving. And this is where I tend to operate in the 2 to 3 level. I'm using AI to save time, generate a high quality starting point, or spot things that I might have missed, but I always remain fully in control. Move on to level 4, and this is where the AI might act more independently. It's authorized to implement some decisions automatically, but only within tightly defined boundaries, and it alerts humans if anything unexpected happens. And finally, level 5 is full autonomy, where an AI can detect an issue, decide what to do, and act on it. And it logs the outcome, all without human input. And the important point is that AI can support you at every level of the scale, not just the extreme level 5. You don't have to give up control to get the benefits from AI. Now, let me start with a phrase that you might have heard of: humans in the loop. And in plain terms, that means AI doesn't run the show. It helps, it informs, but the final call stays with us, stays with people. Now, that might sound like common sense, especially in safety critical environments like ours. But the pressure to automate, the pressure to cut costs, to speed things up is growing all the time. And if we're not careful, we risk creating a system that is more dangerous than it is helpful. Let me walk you through some of the biggest concerns that we see when humans are removed from the loop. First of all, accountability. If an AI misses a hazard and someone gets hurt, who takes the blame? In traditional systems, this is very easy. We can trace the failure to exactly where it happened. It might be faulty equipment, a missed permit, a bad handover. But with AI, the lines blur. Is it the engineer who set up the system? Is it the vendor who trained the model, or is it the manager that trusted the output? And we've seen this play out. In 2021, there was a fatal crash involving a Tesla on autopilot, and that raised tough legal questions about who was accountable. Now, that was in transport, but the principles remain the same for process safety. If we can't pinpoint responsibility, we risk delayed response, we risk stalled investigations, and worst of all, a breakdown in trust. Human expertise. So here's the paradox. The more an AI takes over routine decisions, the less hands-on experience that our team gets. And that's a problem when things go wrong. Imagine a control room operator who hasn't manually responded to a particular event in 5 years because the AI always handles it. And then one day that system glitches, the AI is not there, there's no guidance, there's only alarms. Are we confident that that operator can step in instantly with sound judgment? And again, we've seen this before. The Air France Flight 447 automation lulled the pilots into complacency, a false sense of security. When it was disengaged, they didn't know exactly what to do at the right time. We cannot afford that kind of gap in process safety. AI is only as good as the data that we have trained it on. If your model learns everything it knows from an offshore platform in the North Sea, what happens when it's dropped into a desert facility in the Middle East or a 50-year-old refinery in North America? The result might not just be bad decisions, it might be dangerous decisions. As an example, away from process safety, MIT found that facial recognition systems performed worse for women and for people of colour because the training data didn't fully represent them. In our world, a similar bias could mean entire facilities are unknowingly exposed to higher levels of risk in a certain area. Now, that's not just a technical issue, that's an ethical issue. The more impressive an AI system looks, the more likely we are to trust it without question. That's human nature, but blind trust can be deadly. Think back to the Challenger space shuttle disaster. Engineers had raised concerns about that particular O-ring failure in cold weather, but the system was trusted. The launch went ahead and 7 people lost their lives. As well as a technical failure, that was a failure to listen. That was a failure to ask, does this make sense? And AI should never replace critical thinking. In fact, AI should be used to invite critical thinking. Many AI systems today, especially deep learning models, can be black boxes. They spit out recommendations and they can't always explain why. That's a big problem in process safety. If an AI flags a risk but can't say how it reached that conclusion, can we trust it? Do we ignore it? And if something goes wrong, How do we investigate it? In process safety, understanding the why of something is everything. And without that, we don't learn, we don't improve, we just repeat the same mistakes, only faster and only with new technology. And the penultimate one, the ethical use of AI. To build a powerful, high-performing AI tool, we need data. We need a lot of data. That might include maintenance logs, incident reports, even notes from shift handovers. And buried in all of that might be sensitive information, might be personal information, and it could be shared without clear consent or understanding. Imagine sometime near in the future as we're starting to see more AI monitoring workers. And it's being used to try and predict who's going to make a mistake. It might flag individuals that are at risk, which is excellent. But are those workers being watched without their knowledge? And could that data be used for other things? Could the lines be blurred? And could that start being influenced things like career decisions being made on opaque algorithms? A recent UK survey by the Trade Union Congress found that over a third of all workers surveyed felt uncomfortable about AI monitoring them on the job. Yes, safety is about preventing harm, but it's also about dignity, respect, and trust. If people feel that they're being judged by a machine that they don't understand, we might lose something vital in our safety culture. And finally, cost. We have to be honest with ourselves. AI doesn't just promise safety, it does promise efficiency. And once it all starts working well, the temptations might start to creep in. Do we really need as many inspectors? Can we defer this maintenance a little bit longer? Let's just rely on the model instead. And over time, an AI system might shift from supporting people to quietly replacing them. And that's not hypothetical. We're already seeing that. Digital transformation projects being used to justify headcount reductions, even in safety critical roles. A recent survey of the C-suite by Deloitte found that over half of CFOs surveyed are exploring AI specifically with a view to cutting costs. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes what's good for the balance sheet is not good for process safety. If we let cost-cutting drive the adoption of AI, we risk introducing unseen vulnerabilities. And no spreadsheet will warn us of when those fail. So before we move on from this, I'd say that AI is a powerful tool, but it must serve human judgment, not replace human judgment. Let's design our systems that keep people in the loop and that can actually develop their expertise, earn their trust, not erode it. So we've been very busy in this space. We've talked to a lot of people, and when you talk to these people that are actually responsible for keeping operations safe, you actually hear a hesitation on using AI. In 2023, we spoke to over 100 safety managers across the globe, and one theme kept coming up, that it feels like a black box. AI systems spit out answers, but how did they get there? How could you audit that recommendation? And without clarity, it's hard to feel confident, especially when safety is on the line. Now, it might sound like I'm talking about the future, but AI is already here and it's already providing value in lots of key areas. And here's just a few. It's been used on predictive maintenance. Think of a technician that never sleeps. People using AI to constantly monitor equipment data, vibration, temperature, pressure, and flag unusual patterns before things go wrong. I read it recently about one chemical plant where irregular pump behavior was flagged by the AI. There was no alarms going off. It was just irregular behavior. The engineers checked it and found out that a critical seal was likely just days or weeks away from failure. That's fantastic. Digital twins, these are like a real-time video game of your assets. And people are being using these to like map these to live data to walk through. It's like flying a drone through a storm before you send a real plane with people on it. Risk assessments such as HAZOP are time consuming, data heavy, and very much prone to blind spots. But AIs can scan historical records, alarm records, safety excursion, management of changes. It can help you risk rank. And people are using these technology right now, but the decision still rests with humans. AI supports, but it doesn't sign off anything. And finally, on compliance monitoring, with regulatory requirements piling up, it's become nearly impossible for teams to stay on top of everything manually. AI can review your logs, can review your guidance, can review your procedures against the ever-changing regulations and good practice and flag gaps to you in seconds. And it's like giving every compliance officer a tireless assistant that never misses a deadline. But remember, for all this promise, real challenges remain. Now, we are seeing workforce reductions, we're seeing tighter budgets, we're seeing conflicting demands. AI sounds magical, but it's not plug and play. Let's look at some of the other problems that we're facing right now. The skills gap. By the end of this year, workers over the age of 55, many of those with decades of hard-won experience, will make up just 7% of the energy workforce. By 2030, we think the UK energy industry might be short more than 100,000 skilled professionals. And at the same time, Gen Z, the TikTok generation, and millennials, by then will make up 72% of the global workforce. And here's the tough part. According to EY, 62% of Gen Z respondents said that they found a career in oil and gas and similar industries unappealing. So we're not just struggling to maintain our current expertise, we're fighting to attract people into these roles at all in the first place. So AI might be part of the solution to this talent gap, but it's by no means the silver bullet. Without a thoughtful rollout, human trust, and a clear purpose, we risk investing in technology that nobody is ready or willing to use. So let me take you back to one of the most famous business failures in recent history, and why that might actually be linked to AI. Blockbuster Video. Those under 30 on this call will likely have no idea what I'm talking about. But those that do might think that Blockbuster failed because it didn't adopt new technology, but that's actually not what happened. That's not the real story. Blockbuster Video did adopt new technology. It launched a website. It built an online rental platform. You could browse movies from home and reserve a DVD to pick up in one of their 9,000 stores that they had worldwide. But Blockbuster used new technology to drive more people into its stores. It never once asked the bigger question, do we need our stores at all? And you can understand why. Blockbuster's business model was built around its physical stores. Although its business was renting videos and handing them back a few days later, around a quarter of its revenue came from non-rental income, late fees, snacks, items for sale in the stores. Their stores weren't just part of the business, their stores were the business. So naturally, protecting them seemed like the right move. But let's compare that with Netflix, who launched in 1997, and again, for the younger members of the audience, you might not know this, but Netflix started as a DVD mail service. They had 900 DVDs for rent in 1998, and the idea was simple: browse online, get the DVD posted to your door, no queues, no due dates, no late fees. It felt like magic when that was launched. Netflix didn't just cut out the shop, they reimagined the rental model entirely. And when broadband internet became more common, Netflix made its next move: streaming. In 2007, Netflix launched their streaming platform. No discs, no postage, just click and watch. The store was gone, and that was the turning point. Again, Blockbuster did follow, but always with the same goal: protecting the store. They never asked the deeper question: now that new technology exists, do we need the store at all? And in 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. Every single industry faces the same choice that Blockbuster Video faced, and process safety is the same. Do you use new tools to make old processes more efficient, or do you step back and ask, what new things do these new tools make possible? Focus on process safety. Process safety is built on structure, on documentation, on risk assessments, long-established systems. But in the past 2 years, AI has already shown it can summarize reports, it can analyze massive data sets, it could generate content for large documents, such as safety cases. If AI can write a safety case, do we still need to produce a safety case in the same way? If an AI can accelerate a HAZOP, is the real value speed, or is it in changing how we identify and manage risk altogether? Whenever someone says AI can help us do this faster, I would always say it's worth asking, should we still be doing it at all? So think for a moment, what would it look like to reimagine process safety entirely? Imagine a system where risk assessments aren't just one-off workshops, but they're a continuous data-driven process that evolves as there's changes in operation. or a system where frontline workers and teams can interact with a live digital model of their operation, flagging emerging risks in real time. Or picture a safety case, which today are circa 1,000-page documents. But imagine that they weren't static documents. They were in a shared, transparent environment where everyone can contribute, everyone can ask questions. It truly would be a living, breathing system and not a PDF that's buried on a management system. Now, that world is closer than you exist. All the tools I've just discussed are already here, but the real challenge is whether we use them to improve what we already do, or do we use them to design something new entirely? And these are the conversations that I'm just not hearing enough of. The future won't be built by those who are trying to improve the store. It's going to be built by those who realize that we don't need the store at all. So I'm shortly going to do a demonstration of some AI tools that we are using, but I just wanted to look at our predictions or things that are actually being used right now. Why take the leap? Why add another layer of complexity to something that's already complex? And that's a really fair question, especially when all of us are juggling so much. But the benefits are so hard to ignore. Look at decision making. AI has shown that it can spot signals in data that even seasoned professionals might miss. Imagine this, you're drowning in data, maintenance sensors, logs, instant reports. Human beings can only process so much, but AI doesn't have that limitation. Instead of sampling, it can look at everything in a data set and then highlight risks. And that means more informed decisions, fewer blind spots, and hopefully fewer incidents, which is the goal. Consistency and standardization. We all know that even different sites within the same organization or different organizations struggle with consistency and standardization. Some follow governance to the letter and some not so much. But AI could create a new standard in safety, and it could even reduce things like the time it takes to onboard engineers. So instead of continually playing catch up, you have a consistent, unified approach of all your sites. I do think we can dramatically improve risk assessment. I'm sure all of you have spent many hours, many days in risk assessment, sifting through stuff manually. But what if AI could help you with that, like having the best engineer in the room at every single risk assessment to help you identify vulnerabilities? And this could be game changing, not just about improving how we do risk assessment, but it might actually redefine what our risk assessment is. It might move from one-off static workshops to continuous real-time monitoring. And we're starting to see potentially new methodologies develop, automatically reading P&IDs and much more dynamic systems. And think of that as the HAZOP 2.0, AI-driven, dynamic, and constantly adapting. Because really the biggest revolution to come in HAZOP since it was invented in the 60s was probably the overhead projector. But over the next 5 to 10 years, I expect that we're going to see a fundamental change in how we approach our day-to-day risk assessments. So the main takeaway here is not just about making existing systems better, but it's about reimagining the system entirely. We've got an opportunity to change how we work, how we risk assess, and how we keep people safe. The tools are already here, but it's up to us whether we use them to improve the store or realize that we don't need the store at all. I'd just like to show you 2 very quick examples of some tools that we have made. I'm going to take the first one that's looking through a large data set. Every company will have lots of audit findings, lots of instant investigation findings, lots of action responses, and it's very hard to go through. All of these. So let's take one where I've taken the last 9 years of hydrocarbon release data. That's tens of thousands of data points. And although there's some charts that have been published publicly, imagine that we looked into this. Let me just zoom in a bit so that everyone can see that. So I've asked it to look at the most common root cause of releases. So instead of me having to sift through this manually and do lots of work in Excel, you can see here I've very quickly generated a plot where all this is simply done is looped through tens of thousands of lines of data. I'm still now going to do the work. I can interrogate this data further if I want, but I've not had to do a lot of the manual work. Let's look at something else. Let's look at generating a process safety audit. So let's say that I would like to see what the health of one of our systems is. So let me put this in here. So let's say I've got an upcoming HSE inspection, say on lifeboats or life rafts on an offshore facility, and I want to go and check. I could go through the regulations, the standards, the good practice, the inspection guides, which is what people like me do. But that can take a long time to really see what you need to target. So what I've built here, it takes about 45 seconds to run. What this does is this looks through 5,000 regulator findings since 2019. It looks at all of the findings that relate to the question that I've asked. It then takes all of these findings and makes a targeted list of actions I can focus on. And then what it does with that is creates a 7-question audit that asks open questions, not just yes or no, open questions, and tells me what the failings of other operators are. So I've taken publicly available data, but instead of having my engineers have to trawl through it, I've created an audit I can quickly send someone offshore, and they can perform this audit, and then I can compare the results against the failings of others, and then make decisive action. The AI hasn't decided anything for me, but what the AI has done is it's saved me having to sift through lots of data. I can make better decisions, more consistent, more risk-based decisions as a result. So I'd like to just spend a short amount of time talking about the regulatory landscape. A lot of people don't know this, but there is actually already quite a lot of regulations and guidance from the regulator published about AI, and it's really going to shape how AI is used in process safety. So applicable to people in the UK, there's like 2 regulatory approaches that are emerging. So the first is the EU. So in 2024, the EU passed the AI Act, the world's first comprehensive legal framework for artificial intelligence. So AI used for safety critical environments, which is us, that falls into the high risk category. And what does that mean for process safety? Well, that's got huge implications. So high risk AI systems have got to meet strict standards for things like transparency, data quality, human oversight, and post-deployment monitoring. In simple terms, if AI supports decisions that affect human life, which let's face it, it absolutely would in process safety, the system must be fully documented, fully explainable, and fully controllable. So even though this regulation doesn't directly apply in the UK, it applies to anyone who operates in the UK or any system that's going to be used in the EU. But it's quickly becoming the global benchmark for responsible AI, especially in industries like ours where the stakes are very high. Now, over here in the UK, there is a bit of a different story just now. The UK's AI regulation white paper was published in 2023, and that takes a more principles-based approach. So it sets out 5 guiding principles: safety, transparency, fairness, accountability, and contestability. So instead of creating new laws or a central AI regulator, the UK government has asked existing regulators, like the HSE, to apply these principles within their specific domains. So that does give us flexibility, which is fantastic for innovation, but it does create uncertainty. So without hard rules in place, it's up to companies to decide for themselves what good looks like. And that, for me, is a risk in itself. If the pace of technology outstrips the pace of regulation, we could end up making decisions without sufficient regulator checks or oversight. Now, whether you're in the EU or in the UK, here's the safest path forward, in my opinion. Design systems with human oversight built in from the start. It's not just about compliance, it's about building trust in the system. Ensure transparency and traceability, even if the law doesn't explicitly require you to do so yet. This is critical in safety, where every decision could have far-reaching consequences. Test and document your AI as rigorously as you would any other safety critical component. And that means treating it like a critical system from day one, not just as a tool. Take ownership of the system, even if it's built by an external vendor. If something goes wrong, it'll be your team, your organization that's held responsible, not the vendor. The bottom line is that AI is a game changer for process safety. But with great power comes great responsibility, and as regulations evolve, so too should our approach. I would encourage you to always be proactive and ensure that we're all building systems that are safe, explainable, and accountable, no matter where we are operating. And if I go back to my screen here, behind the scenes, this isn't a black box. We've got a clear logic flow that every single step is traceable, every single step is auditable, and we can see exactly what it's doing, and we can see test results. And that is what things like the EU AI Act are driving us towards. So let's move into the final part of the webinar. Let's look at some of the learnings that we've had from all of the AI projects that we've conducted. So one of the most important lessons that we as a company have learned is that focused, well-defined problems are where AI truly shines. So teams have had most success when they apply AI to a specific equipment set rather than trying to tackle the whole facility at once. So when you focus AI on solving a clear, specific problem, it's far easier to see the results. In high hazard industries, trust is everything. And as I've said, AI can easily feel like a black box if you don't explain how it works. So that's why we've been transparent about showing those data inputs, showing those logic flows when and how AI reaches conclusions. So that approach will help skeptics see how a system works and build trust and transparency. And transparency isn't just a nice to have with AI. In my opinion, it's essential. I would say don't try and go all in from day one. Start with smaller controlled pilots. Begin with phased rollouts, and teams can gradually build confidence in the AI system. And that will reduce the risk of errors, and it will give us the chance to adjust as we go. This iterative approach has helped us and our customers test, learn, and improve before they scale. So we've seen the real demand for AI and process safety. For example, having 100 organizations that wanted to talk to us in 2023. But despite this, there's still a huge sense of doubt. People might worry that AI will oversimplify complex safety issues or misinterpret critical details. The key to overcoming this, in my opinion, is education, communication, and validation. AI is not a magic bullet, but it's a tool that can be used safely and effectively if we take time to ensure that it's robust and to ensure that it is well tested. So my final point before we conclude, let's talk about the AI adoption roadmap. I really don't think the AI, the getting AI right, is just about the tech. It's about how it's adopted. The reality is that most failures, most incidents that have come through new technology don't come from faulty technology. They come from poor adoption practices of that technology. Misaligned stakeholders, unclear objectives, lack of governance. So we've obviously seen this firsthand at Salus. We've conducted our own research, we've built and tested our own technology and run real world pilots. And through these experiences, we've learned that AI adoption can only succeed with a structured people first approach. So here's some of our steps. So before you dive into use cases or choosing tech, get input from all parts of your company that are required. Operations, safety, IT, your digital team, and your leadership. Rolling out AI into process safety is not just an IT project. An early engagement builds alignment, builds trust, and ensures that you're all pulling in the same direction. You can't build something on shaky ground. So before you jump in to AI, assess whether your IT infrastructure can actually handle the demands of AI, the storage, the compute power, system reliability, or how it's going to integrate with existing systems. And equally, evaluate if your team are ready. Do they understand key AI concepts, its limitations, for example? Do you actually have processes in place for the experimentation, the right governance? How are you going to manage the change of bringing it in? And getting your team's mindset right is just as critical as having the right tech. AI is only as good as the data that sits behind it. And that is where many projects fail. Your AI system will only be as reliable as the quality and the structure of the data that it is given. We've helped companies clean up a lot of their safety data, rework logs, reformat risk assessments, and organize sometimes decades of data for AI systems. Got to map your data sources properly, clean and structure unorganized data, add additional tags, additional metadata so the AI knows and understands what it's reading. And if you do this well, you can turn your historical data from a liability into a strategic asset. There's many, many, many tools that are available. It's not one size fits all. Some large language models are far better than others for interpreting technical language, analyzing documents, and supporting decisions. Not every model fits every use. So when you choose the right AI model, you've got to assess its accuracy, its reliability, its transparency, or any products that you buy. You need to make sure that you've got the right support from those vendors. And as I've said, run small pilots, even with simulated or historical data, before you commit to anything. Please don't make any decisions based on the marketing hype around AI. Make them based on evidence. So safety doesn't just mean protecting people, it also means protecting your data. Data security is non-negotiable. There's lots of things you can do. Encryption, using role-based permissions to access and anonymize data where you can. Regularly audit, regularly test, and make sure that you're doing everything in line with the correct regulations and data protection laws. If your AI system can't meet the same security standards as your other IT infrastructure, it should not be used. I would always say start small, fail safely, and learn fast. So pick a narrow, high impact use case. Might be something like analyzing risk registers or supporting a specific part of the permit process. Develop a prototype, test it in a sandbox environment on non-critical task. The first phase with rollout of any AI project is always about learning, gathering performance metrics, observing user interactions, and then refining the system. If the prototype succeeds, fantastic. But if it doesn't, you've learned something valuable without putting safety at risk. AI is not static, and neither is process safety. AI systems should and will continue to evolve as your operations evolve. So set up feedback loops that allow your system to learn from new data and new user experiences. Update your models regularly and never treat the current version as the final version. Scale only what works and phase out what doesn't work. The process of using AI in process safety should be seen as continuous improvement, not a one-time deployment. Define how decisions are going to be made. When does AI make recommendations? When does AI make final decision? Who's got the override authority in critical scenarios? These governance rules must be defined and agreed upon before AI is used in operations. You've got to audit your AI systems regularly. You've got to track outputs, monitor for any bias that's crept in. AI is never set and forget. It's all about stewardship. So just aware from the time, so I'll just talk briefly about this. We've all heard it, AI is here to take our jobs, but here's the truth. When it comes to your typical safety engineer, your typical professional, AI shouldn't be here to replace them, it should be here to take them to the next level. The role of your typical safety engineer might shift from manual task focus to big picture oversight and strategic decision making. AI will hopefully free up time for professionals to focus on what matters the most, making the decisions that improve safety outcomes and push the boundaries of our current practice. Routine tasks like reviewing instant logs, flagging compliance gaps, or running risk assessments, I think these will still stay, but AI can hopefully help do these more efficiently and allow engineers to focus on the human side of safety, the problem solving, the critical thinking, and the risk management. And let's be clear, no matter how fancy that it gets, AI will always just be a tool. It's not a replacement for human expertise. Absolutely, AI can streamline certain duties, but it should never replace critical thinking and the moral responsibility carried out by human professionals. There is no algorithm that can truly replicate experience, intuition, and human judgment. So as we wrap up then, there's just a few points that I would like to go through. So if you are convinced that AI has the potential to revolutionize process safety, but you're still feeling a bit hesitant, don't worry, that is completely normal. If you embracing AI responsibility is far easier when there's a solid plan in place. So I'd like to go over some of the powerful steps that we've already discussed so that you can use to help get you started with more confidence. Start small, scale wisely. Begin with a specific process area in your business for your first AI pilots. And that approach will minimize risk and give you a chance to learn effectively without overwhelming your system. By focusing on one area, you can build experience and demonstrate value before scaling. You've got to equip your team with a strong understanding of AI fundamentals, how it works, the data it uses, and how to interpret its insights. The more that your team understands about AI, the more empowered that they'll feel to use it. Knowledge is empowerment, and a well-informed team can help AI thrive in your business. Collaboration is key. Partner with regulators, researchers, consultants who can guide your efforts. Learn from the experience of others to save you valuable time and help prevent costly mistakes and ensure that you stay on the right path. AI is not a one-time fix, it's a journey. Embrace the ongoing process of adapting, refining, and retraining your AI models. As your operations evolve, your AI should evolve too. A culture of continuous improvement means always learning, always improving, and always adapting. Plan, do, check, act. So these steps will put you on the path to using AI effectively and responsibly and harness its potential without losing sight of what truly matters: human judgment and safety. I've got another couple of bullet points. So are we safer with AI? I would say potentially yes. But, and this is crucial, we must always be aware of what AI can and cannot do. The key to success lies in blending human intuition and oversight with AI's rapidly advancing capabilities. So here's a few things to keep in mind. Just as I've said, start methodically, test AI in small, controlled pilot projects before expanding. Measure success with concrete metrics. Is it reduction in downtime, fewer near-miss incidents? Whatever it is, make sure that you can measure it. Stay adaptable. AI models can degrade over time. Regulations are going to evolve. User behavior is going to change. So you've got to stay agile in how you deploy and monitor these systems. And finally, keep human judgment at the forefront of all safety decisions. AI is a powerful tool, it's a powerful assistant, but it still requires oversight and validation. So when used thoughtfully, AI can make process safety more proactive. It can make it more consistent and can make your team more resilient. And I think now is the perfect time to invest in strategies that improve rather than undermine human expertise. I think we should embrace AI as a tool for empowerment, not as a tool for replacement of our people. And I truly believe that together we can build a safer, a smarter, and more efficient future for any industry that uses process safety. So thank you very much for listening. I'll now quickly look through the questions to see if there are any. If you do have any questions, please put them into the Q&A of the Teams channel and I'll see if there are any. Just give me a second while I have a quick look through. So I see there's a few come through. That's fantastic. So I'll just read these. So the first one is, could the data protection laws and cybersecurity overlaps put companies off from AI adoption in the energy and oil and gas sector? I would say yes, it could. There was a report that was issued, I believe, just last week or possibly the week before that talked about the cybersecurity vulnerabilities in lots of AI systems, and it's just simply concluded that there seems to have been a backwards step in cybersecurity. So I think the complexity and, as you say, the overlap of the regulatory landscape, I think that absolutely could put people off using AI in the oil and gas sector. The next question, can you say how your LLM is built, e.g. did you build it from scratch or did you fine tune one of the public or open sourced model? So this is a good question, and I think this is something that a lot of people will face. There's open source models that don't cost you anything. There are public models that you would pay to use that, like the OpenAI models that sit behind ChatGPT as an example. These models you can use off the that. You can do what's called prompt engineering, and there's a large number of things that you can do there with the various things. There's RAG to inject lots of data in the responses. So that's one route that you can go down. The other one is that you can train a model so that you can give it hundreds, or you can give it thousands of examples of what you'd like it to say. And that gives you a lot more control, a lot more fine tuning of a model. We've tested both. There's some use cases we're actually using a openly available model with advanced prompts, advanced steps of prompts, different ways to read data in works just fine. I think there's some other applications where that just wouldn't cut it, and you'd have to train that model on examples. And it's about if you've got sufficient examples to do so. So I would say that likely we'll always have a blend. There'll be some applications that will use models that we've trained ourselves, and there'll be some applications that are just openly available models that we've used advanced prompt engineering techniques to get what we are looking for. So I think there's a few. I'm just going to go down these in order. Apologies if I've got this wrong. Where do you see the industry or international process safety specifications or standards, including AI references? Well, I would probably use cybersecurity as the analogy for this. There's around 10 years ago, I remember our control engineers and our electrical engineers all got sent on cybersecurity training, and you saw them started to drip their way into some IEC standards. And there's now some organizations that treat cybersecurity as a safety critical element. So it's treated in the exact same way as an emergency shutdown valve or a lifeboat would. And anyone who's not aware, there's been some quite high profile cybersecurity incidents, ransomware attacks, people taking over control of pipelines, etc. So over that 10-year process, cybersecurity went from this brand new thing that you didn't think would really touch oil and gas, say, to now I think it's fully integrated with how we work. I expect AI will be the same. There might be some AI specific standards, or it might just be that AI, much like cybersecurity has now, just kind of drip feeds its way into just the very fabric of how we do things. But I would expect to see some new standards, and I'm aware of some working groups that are pursuing that right now. Yeah, there's a similar question. What kind of models and AI tool you have in mind when you speak about implementation? I think it's a lot of what I've said. There's a lot of off-the-shelf products, or an increasing number that you can buy now, or it might be something that you want to do yourself that's built behind the scenes with your IT team. I think that there's a wealth of measures that you can do there, and I think every company is going to do it slightly different. How can current functional safety or process safety professionals upskill to learn and implement AI in the coming years? I think this is a fantastic time to start learning about AI. People might think that you might be too late to the party. I think it's still very early in AI. I would say that right now there's lots of free courses out there. There are no experts in large language models because, first of all, even the people that have built them sometimes don't truly understand how they work. And secondly, well, ChatGPT launched at the end of 2022, so there's only been 2 full years, and probably only 1 full year because it was right at the end of 2022 that this stuff's been about. And to the extent that it has. So, I've used lots of free training courses. OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, I've got lots of courses. There's deeplearning.ai. Again, they've got lots of free courses, and there's lots of other places that you can do that. So I would encourage anyone just to learn all about prompt engineering and about training models. Use ChatGPT. Don't just use ChatGPT. Use a lot of the other ones as well. And if you're so technically inclined, try and hack away at some of the free the open source models that are out there. So there's a wealth of free training courses. But I think once you start to unlock, prompt engineering, chains of prompts, tree of prompts, and all that kind of thing, it really does, open up lots of new avenues. So let me just see if there's any more questions. if anyone's got any more questions, I'd say now's the time to drop them in. I think I've gone through them all. Let me just double check. It's all the ones that I can see, so that's fine. Okay, so if there's no more questions coming through, we can start to wrap the event up. In terms of way forward, we'll send out some of this content and the recording to you all over the next few days. Actually, as I'm saying that, here's a new question come through. Where do you see the industry or international process safety specifications, including air references? I think I might. Yeah. Yeah, I think these are just some variations on the same theme. So I think I've answered those. So we'll send out some of the content to you all. We'll also later this month be launching a white paper that will be available to download on our website as well. And obviously anyone can reach out to me on LinkedIn if they have any questions. So with that, I think I'll end the event. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and enjoy the rest of your